You're listening to Kids Ministry Answers from Stuff You Can Use, from Stuff You Can Use, from StuffYouCanUse.org.
Welcome to Kids Ministry Answers. My name is Linda.
And my name is Jason, and this is the podcast where you ask the questions and we help you find the answers.
That's right. Hello, Jason. Good to see you again.
Hey, Linda. Good to see you too. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I know we just got done in the pre-show talking about spring break. So my kids are on spring break right now. So it's been a little bit of a challenge this week. But they're at a climbing camp right now. So hopefully they'll come home with less energy.
Yeah, I cannot do any work when the kids are home during break. So I try to take my breaks around the same time as theirs, but it doesn't always work out that way, you know?
Totally.
Okay, well, today's episode is going to be such a fun one. It's kind of like a grab bag sort of episode. But before we get into it, which is sort of kind of related to what we're going to talk about just right this minute, is I wanted to know, Jason, is what's something that you've ever done with complete confidence that you had absolutely no business doing? Is there anything like that?
So the correct answer for me to this question is nothing. I've never done anything that I had no business doing that that I was confident about. That has never happened in my life. But I don't want to be a wet blanket on the question, so I will answer. Probably the closest experience to this is playing guitar solos live on stage. Definitely no business ever doing that. But sometimes, in church, there was no one else to do it, so I had to do it. And I wasn't confident about it, and I shouldn't have done it. And I think it was unfortunate for me and for everyone else. So I think that's the closest that I can say. What about you?
That's funny. No, I resonate with you. There was nothing I felt like super confident about, but I had to fake a whole lot of confidence to do it.
Yep.
And I can actually think of a few things. So in high school, I think it was all happening around my late teens, early 20s. After that, I realized I should not be confident about things. One was...
It's one of the hard knock lessons we learned.
Exactly.
First lesson of the day from KMA. Lose all confidence.
Lose all confidence when you don't know what you're doing.
Yes.
So I remember in high school, one of my physics teacher was also the volleyball coach. And he said that if you want extra credit, you can come out to the volleyball games and score keep. And then he actually taught volleyball, baseball, a few of the sports. And I just wanted that extra credit. But I had no idea how to score keep. Like, I had no idea what was happening. But I was like, yeah, I can do that. And I don't think he used my scorekeeping scores, but I got my extra credit. So there's that.
Okay.
Around the same time, I had to start teaching choir at our kids ministry because there was no one to do it. And when your mom's the boss, you kind of have to do whatever you're told to do. So then I had no real musical experience, but I had to teach kids how to do like 2-3-part harmony and like teach choreography. So I was watching like Gap commercials at the time to try to draw inspiration. Like, it was so weird. And I had to do it so confident, like, follow me, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh, yeah.
What am I doing?
You have to. Yeah, you'd have to be confident. That's wild. Yeah. That's cool.
And the last thing is, I think the first time I was visiting New York, I think I was... because there's all of these misconceptions about tourists in New York. So I really wanted to be like, oh, I'm not a tourist. I totally am from here. And so the first time someone came up to me and asked for directions, I was so proud. I was like, yes, I look like I'm from here. And I was like, yeah, it's that way. And of course, it probably wasn't. I don't know. I was really
you just gave the wrong direction, which is probably what a New Yorker would do. So you did the exact thing.
Right. I was blending in.
Yeah, and no shade on New Yorkers. I love that city. I didn't think of that example, but I have done the same thing. Like I try to walk around New York looking like I know where I'm
right?
going, when in actuality I have no idea where I'm at. I'm just walking around with people. But I try to
Yeah,
look like
something
I'm
about
headed
New York.
somewhere important.
Yeah.
I don't
We
have
love you, New
time.
York. We just want to be from there. That's all, okay?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, well, in an interesting kind of way, I think that's actually sort of the ministry story for all of us, right? Like we
Yep.
walk in sure that we're ready or sure that we have some idea of what we're doing. Even if you're thrown into the job, you only
Yes.
took it because you're like, I think I could manage it. And, the job always had some things to teach us. So today we're going to talk about what we wish we'd known before we started ministry, which is super
This is gonna be
cool.
awesome.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
really excited about this. And today's episode is going to have a different feel, like we mentioned at the beginning. So instead of one guest, we're going to have like 7. And we're
Uh-huh.
answering this question, right? What's one thing you wish you knew before you started in ministry? And instead of just us going back and forth sharing our experiences, we were like, well, why don't we bring in some of our friends, our very smart and wonderful friends who work with us at Stuff You Can Use,
Yep.
and widen the perspective of the question. So I can't wait to hear what they had to say.
Yeah, me too. You might have guessed, but our team at Stuff You Can Use, full of people that have been in kids ministry, been in students ministry, all kinds of leadership, all kinds of roles. And so
Mm-hmm.
we asked them, if you could go back in time, have a conversation with younger you before you started in ministry, what is the one thing that you would want to say? And what
Yeah.
we got is some like really great, sometimes really funny, sometimes heartwarming, always challenging, and really like super practical responses. So I
Yes.
think this is going to be awesome and very helpful.
Yes. And we love our team and just we loved all the insights they had to share. And it's going to be a little bit of a healing time for us too, right? To
I think
tell
so.
younger Jason, younger Linda, hey,
Yeah.
here's
It's
some
going to
things
be
you should have
okay.
known, but it's okay. You're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start here because this is where I feel a lot of leaders feel pressure. So, a few of our team members gave us responses that point to this idea of you don't have to have it all figured out, right?
Right.
So, because if you're a young leader, that might be particularly important because honestly, like, this is good advice for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Rookies, veterans, it doesn't matter. It's okay for us to admit that we don't have it all figured out. And it's probably the normal thing to happen.
Yes.
Because when you step into kids ministry or any ministry for that matter, it can feel like you're supposed to know a lot of things. You're supposed to know
Yeah.
everything, like somehow like osmosis, right? Like in
Yeah.
that scene from The Matrix, you just know, download the
Yeah.
info, like how to lead, how to teach, how to handle tough situations just organically. But that's
Yeah.
not actually how ministry works or how any other profession works or just how life works in general. So
Yep.
let's start this with one of our founders of Stuff You Can Use, Elle Campbell. Some of you might
Yes.
remember her from previous episodes. We're actually going to hear from her twice today because she's that cool and she
And
had a
she's so
couple of really
smart.
helpful things to say.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And this first one is so good and practical. Let's take a listen.
If there is one thing that I hope everybody listening remembers as they're listening to this list of all the things that we wish we knew, it would be that I hope you remember that being a leader is never about having all the answers or knowing everything that there is to know, because you will literally never, ever, you'll never know all the things that you need to know. And the important thing I think in leadership is to be so acutely aware of at all times of all the things that we don't know and all of the things that we are not experts in. And I think if there is ever a point in time when you as a leader start to think like, oh yeah, I got this down. Like I know what I'm doing. I'm pretty smart. Like that's probably a warning sign that maybe you have a lot more to learn. But if you as a leader can hang on to this idea that like you have so much more stuff to learn, you have so much more ways that you can grow, then I think you're going to be in a healthy spot.
Yeah. That's so
So
good.
good.
I think, just to add on to what Elle was already saying, but if leaders had to know like every single thing and be prepared for every situation
Can you imagine?
before they could lead. Like, do that before there would be no leaders. Like, there would be no such thing as leaders, because we're all learning, we're all growing, we're all making mistakes and learning from them. We're all just trying to be better the next time. And
Yeah.
it is honestly okay if you feel like I'm a little behind. You're not. It's
No.
okay to say, hey, I have so much to learn, because you do, just like all of us do.
Yes,
Like
we all do.
I
yes.
do, Linda does, Elle does. We all have so much to learn. But the best leaders, and Elle kind of said this, I think the best leaders are the ones who recognize that they need to grow, and they decide to like always keep getting better each time, and being
Yes.
okay with the process of getting better each time, instead of like, I want to reach the destination. No, you're always going to be growing and learning each time.
Right. And I really love what she said there at the end when she said, well, if you think, if you're ever at a point where you think you figured it out, then that's probably a warning sign.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like leaders, we need to be tuned into ourselves. If you're ever thinking like, yeah, I got this, like there's not much else to learn, it's all cruise control from here, then you're probably not doing something right. And so it might be time to investigate a little into yourself and into what you're doing for your ministry. But not having it all figured out, learning as you're going, those are excellent points. And what a way to kick this off. Love it.
Yeah, totally. If there's somebody listening who's like, oh man, I did just think I had it all figured out.
It's not an indictment. We still love you.
Just, might want to think again.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yes. So our good pal Keegan, he's been a guest here before, he had another thought to share about what being prepared in ministry can actually look like. So let's hear from him.
I think a lot of people feel like whenever they go into kids ministry that they need to have like a degree in theology or all these kind of things. But really, in my opinion, having just practical volunteer down in the trenches doing things all the time is going to be just as good. Because when you really get into kids ministry, yes, your theology degree is important and things like that. But at the same time, you really need like a college class on like practical ministry 101, which is like, here's how you print things. Here's how you set up supply lists. Here's how you're able to love on volunteers and do things like that. So it's not so much just a matter of having the degrees and the trainings and all that kind of stuff, but it's really just getting down into the grassroots of kids ministry and learning as much as you can on that thing. So it could be things as far as programming lights. It could be setting up like slides for Sunday morning for on your screens or on your TVs. And so really learning all of that stuff is just as valuable, if not more valuable than even like a theology degree, just because that's what you're going to spend 80 to 90% of your time doing throughout the week is that. And so being able to kind of hone those skills in really well is just a really good way to be a great kids pastor, really, because you're just going to be learning and doing all the stuff that you're ultimately going to be doing all of the time for that. And so I've always told my interns and things like Practical Ministry 101, that's a college class I want to teach sometime, just about here's how you do this, here's how you do that, here's how you plan events, like all the stuff you really don't learn in Bible college, but you do learn and actually do all the time, and even have a harder learning curve those first couple of years because you're just learning a lot of the simple things that you do all the time.
Oh my goodness. I would be so excited to audit this course from Professor Keegan that'll like teach us things like how to organize your supply cabinets and like
Sounds
how
fun.
to print handouts front and back, like double-sided.
I can imagine just the course would be just following Keegan around as he runs around the church and does stuff.
No, that's called shadowing. That's your internship.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So Keegan makes an excellent tip here, because there is this myth that you need to feel ready, like we've been talking about before you start. Like, I need to accumulate all the degrees and all of this, this head knowledge before I start. But honestly, nobody feels ready. A lot of it is stuff that you are learning on the job, like things that are specific to your ministry context. And even years in, you're still learning things all the time because things change and life changes like that on you sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, like Keegan was saying, I mean, degrees matter. Studying matters. I mean, they better matter because I spent so much of my life in school.
Dr. Linda Moon, it better matter. It
Please,
does,
please
yes.
make it matter. Um, but and being prepared matters, but so much of ministry is full of wisdom you can only gain through experience. And so if you want to be a better leader and that's what you're just doing ministry, learning from other leaders, you're reading, studying, and trying to grow as you are doing the job, you are doing great.
Yeah, totally. And I think something that wasn't kind of tucked into this is like understanding the nuances of your specific context.
Mm-hmm.
Like getting to know that stuff you can just do by being on the ground and actually doing ministry there. And I think also like it's those moments of application, right? Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't replace that. So, like you said, obviously good to acquire knowledge about ministry, but in my opinion, few things help you grow more than when you see the knowledge you have play out in real life in the
Yes,
ministry that you're in. When you're able to apply what you know practically into your ministry.
absolutely.
That's great. So the next thing we're going to talk about, we asked our team what they wish they knew before going into ministry, and they talked a lot about like trusting your voice and having discernment. Because I think, at least for me, and I think a lot of people will relate, like it's very easy to feel like you're the least experienced person in the room,
Yes.
which may or may not be true. It can be easy to feel like when you're new, like that's kind of a problem, or when you're younger than everyone else, which I know for like student leaders and kids leaders that can be the case sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a big one. You're just quote unquote the kids pastor.
That is a big one.
Yeah. And we can say all these things to ourselves and we can think all these things. And we can start to believe that our perspective, our voice, our intuition matters somehow less than the other leaders around us. And so with that in mind, we're going to hear from April Wall. She's awesome and she had more to say about this.
Here's the thing. If I could go back to a very young April in ministry, I would gently hold her sweet, precious, chubby face in my hands. And I would say, girl, if something in your gut doesn't feel right, trust it. There were so many times where I doubted myself. I doubted my perspective, my perception, my insight, because I thought, oh, I'm I'm not good enough to understand this. Oh, I haven't had enough years in ministry to understand this. And I truly wish that I would have just trusted that feeling in my gut, which looking back now, it was 1000% the work of Jesus just saying like, hey, something here is not right. And I wish I would have trusted myself. I wish that I would have had the confidence in my gifts, my talents, and my abilities to just say, okay, something's not right here, whether it was with leadership, whether it was a situation with a family. I wish I would have paid attention to just that little voice saying, ooh, something here isn't the way it's supposed to be.
Well, I have so much love for baby April.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think so many leaders can relate to this, like when you feel
Yeah.
something is off, but then you talk yourself out of it because you're like, oh, maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I just don't understand yet because I don't have the experience yet or whatever. But I mean, like, even in the Bible, right? Like, sometimes it's not the leadership that gets the message, right? Like, if we even think
Yeah.
about the story of Samuel, right? Like, everything was just a disaster in Eli's household, right? And
Yeah.
it was Samuel who got the message from God that things were going to change around here. So I think that instinct, that little nudge, is actually something really important, and that the Spirit does speak to all of us, and that
Yeah.
learning to pay attention to that is such a big part of growing as a leader. So I really appreciated what April said.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, this is just reiterating the point, but I think for me personally, it's like so many times I look back at a situation I was in hindsight, I saw those red flags, but like April said, you talk yourself out of it.
Yeah.
And I think we can so easily, for some reason, separate those nudges from the voice of God or the Holy Spirit. And we're not saying that like every single time you feel that nudge, that it is God's voice or God
Sometimes
speaking
you're
to
just
you.
hungry. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is enough of the time that we should not be ignoring these things. I think that is kind of what April is saying, is that we look back at things and are like, man, I wish I wouldn't have ignored what I felt, what I, just felt was off. So, yeah.
Yes. And related to what April shared is something that we're going to hear next from our always wise, fearless leader, Dr. Yuli Lee, who shared something that she learned about leadership, authority, and not confusing someone's gifting with their character. And also similar to what April said, remembering that you have a voice too.
There are two things. First, I wish I knew that speaking well on a pulpit doesn't necessarily mean someone is a good person or that they'll speak well of you when you're not around. So just because a pastor can preach powerfully, articulate truth, and move a crowd, that doesn't automatically mean that their private character matches their public gifting. Sometimes that same person who sounds really uplifting on the stage can speak negatively about you behind closed doors. And that was a hard but important lesson, is not to confuse platform excellence with personal integrity. So that's the first thing I wish I knew, was to not confuse a pastor's platform excellence with personal integrity. The second thing I wish I knew was that I have a voice too. So I can share my perspective, ask questions, and even challenge things when needed. The Holy Spirit doesn't just live in the pastor. The Holy Spirit lives in me too. And that means discernment, wisdom, conviction aren't reserved for a title or a position. And learning to trust that while still walking in humility and respect would have really helped me grow with more confidence and clarity in my faith. So those are the two things I wish I knew before I started ministry.
Wow.
Yeah.
I kind of like chuckled during Yuli's thing. I shouldn't have done that. They'll probably edit it out so you'll never even hear it. But like we can always count on Yuli to bring it, right? Like she's gonna bring it. She's gonna say what like needs to be said in the way that we need to hear it. And so this stuff is gold. Yes, I think I'm not gonna say all of us, but a lot of us have experience. Like just because someone's awesome up on stage when they're doing a sermon doesn't automatically mean that they're going to be a completely healthy, or even somewhat healthy individual behind the scenes. I think it's like the phrase that came to me is like assumed authenticity. When we see someone communicate in an authentic manner from a stage, we kind of assume that would also be the way they are off the stage. And that isn't always the case,
I think that's kind of like the disillusionment we get, like when we find out about celebrities we used to really like, and then learning about their own moral failings, and you're just so disappointed because they represent this persona that we didn't think they had, because they carry themselves well, they present themselves well, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, and we don't expect like people to be perfect. We're not saying that, but I think when like what Yuli was talking about is like when it negatively affects you, which is what she was talking about.
Yeah.
Then that can really be jarring to us when we see someone who's so authentic and so great up on stage and has affected our lives with the words that they say, but then off the stage it kind of takes us in a different direction. And I thought also the point that she made is so good, because I've done this before, just talking about how the Holy Spirit doesn't reside in some people more than others.
Right.
Like I think we can fall into that trap of thinking like, wow, that person is super influential and they're super like, so the Holy Spirit is strong. It's like we treat it like the Force in Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Force is strong with that one.
With this one.
Yeah. And when in actuality, like it's just as strong in us. And sometimes we think the levels are off and like, or different with some people, when in actuality, like that's not true. Like the Holy Spirit's just as powerful inside of us.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
again, it calls to mind the example I brought up when we were listening to April's message about Samuel and Eli, and countless times in the Bible and in our lived experiences when we need to heed the voices of the people that don't currently have the platform because
Right.
the Spirit is working and speaking through them as well. So these points were so good and so healing. It's stuff we need
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. And to bring up another like Bible character, like think about Moses, man. He was
Right.
not like a great communicator, and God chose him to be the guy, you know? And so I think there's
Yeah.
something to learn from that in terms of like trusting our gut, asking questions, speaking up with humility. I also think this is like sometimes we think that stuff's disrespectful, you know, like we think questioning leadership can be a disrespectful thing.
Yeah.
But that's just part of like being healthy and growing together and growing
Yeah.
individually, like as a leader.
Yeah. And then as somebody who has always felt like I was in this place where I was not experienced enough or old enough or a man enough to be frank, right?
Yes.
I just felt
Needs
like
to be said.
I didn't have the voice, right?
Mhm.
And so then you do start developing these kind of subversive ways to work within this larger system that you can't actually fix, right? But you do have to know, right? You have to listen to these voices that God has given you, right? That is saying that, hey, something is wrong here, something is off here. You need to do something about it, and not just accept what is being preached from the pulpit. So I think that's a really good note on discernment from our friends April and Yuli. That was really good. Thank you, friends.
Yes.
And the thing is, ministry is a lot about the people that we work with, the people that we serve, right? And that
Totally.
is true, but it's also a whole lot about, kind of like we touched on, a lot about these systems, planning, emails, logistics, all this stuff, right? So another category of responses that we got from our team is that we wish we knew back then ministry needs structure.
Yes.
Right? Can't just wing it every week.
I'm going to
So
be listening closely to this one.
yes. What are some tips we can pick up now?
Yes.
So our very good friend Charlie pointed this out in such a funny and incredibly relatable way. Let's listen in.
If you would have asked me years ago what I needed to get into ministry, I would have said a Bible, a calling, maybe a lot of coffee. What I wouldn't have said is a business degree would be super helpful. And yet, here we are. Because nobody told me that ministry isn't just about people and purpose. It's also about budgets and strategies and systems and emails. So many emails. Like, no one warned me that I would spend part of my week thinking about things like, is this sustainable? What's the ROI of that event? Like, how do we actually measure impact? See, I thought I was signing up to change lives, not to build spreadsheets. But here's what I've learned. Ministry doesn't just run on passion, it runs on structure. And the tension is real, right? Because the heart of ministry is people, stories, transformation, showing up in sacred moments. But the health of ministry, that's built on clarity, on leadership, on systems that won't bring you out. I wish someone had told me earlier that being called doesn't automatically make you equipped. That loving people doesn't mean you automatically know how to lead an organization. That vision, without structure, eventually collapses under its own weight. And honestly, some of us are exhausted not because we don't care, but because we've been trying to carry something that we were never trained to build. So if I could go back and tell my younger self one thing, it's going to be this. Learn how things work. Learn how to lead a team. Learn how to manage your time. Learn how to build something that can last beyond your energy. Because when you pair calling with competency, that's where ministry becomes sustainable. That's where it grows. And that's where it actually frees you up to do the thing you were called to do in the first place. Change lives.
Wow. That was like a dissertation or something.
I
felt like a
know.
speech
It's a
from the
TED
stage.
Talk right there.
Yeah, that's what it was. It felt like a TED Talk. It was so good from Charlie. Thank you so much. And I'll just say, like, yes, Why so many emails?
Why so many emails?
Why? And meetings. Why so many
So many meetings.
But seriously, I think this is like a real tension because we get into ministry because we care about people and we want to be with people. But then we realize that there is like this whole other side of leadership that
has nothing to do with people.
yeah, that we're not really even excited about doing. But she's completely right. If we ignore that, then we can't even do the other part because everything just starts to fall apart because we don't have any structure. And I think it can be a trip hazard. It can be something that like hinders us when we don't know how to do this other side of ministry. We didn't know that existed before we got into it.
Right. I was listening to Charlie's message and it made me wonder, like, do we just from generation to generation and like leader to leader, just like withhold this information on purpose because we think it'll scare people off?
Exactly.
Like if I approached a leader to be like, hey, do you want to volunteer for kids ministry? But here's everything you need to know. Will they listen? Will they want to even do it? But even like, would a younger me have listened?
Would we have even listened? That's what I was just thinking. Like, I don't think I would have been like, oh,
like, yeah. I know how to do that stuff. Or like, so much of this is lived experience. You don't really realize the full impact of all of these other pieces of ministry until you have done it. And you're like, wow, I did spend a whole lot of my ministry time writing and sending emails.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. How to navigate that other side of things is so important. So our great pal and one of the hosts of Youth Ministry Answers podcast, Brooklyn, is with us. Not with us, but she's shared some ideas. And she takes this idea further, like not just talking about practical stuff like skills and spreadsheets like Charlie was talking about, but like real personal sustainability. So let's hear what Brooklyn had to say.
If I could go back to 20-something me, there would be so many things I would tell her. I would say, honey, it's okay to build some scaffolding around your life, around the gaps that ministry creates. I would tell her that. And she would say, what are you saying right now? What are you meaning by scaffolding? And I would say, well, right now you believe that you get to do this and that you are lucky to serve and that it is such a privilege to make this sacrifice. And you are not wrong, dear one. That's what I would tell her. You are not wrong. However, sometimes believing those things at the beginning will keep you bypassing the humanity of the leader that you are. And you might not feel permission to set up some sustainable systems that can help you practically. I'm talking about simple things like having a plan for health insurance, retirement, rhythms for rest. I think all of these things I thought were bonuses and not necessarily something that were required. And there have been a lot of seasons, and I would tell her there might be some seasons in your life when you feel like you can't keep going and it doesn't feel sustainable at all. It doesn't feel sustainable. It feels like the sacrifice might break you. So if you would like to have a ministry that doesn't break you and brings you so much joy, set up some support for yourself, some healthy boundaries, some rhythms that you can, experience and create so that in every ministry setting you are part of, you are saying to yourself just as much as you are saying to others that you matter, that your needs are important, and that rest is good. That's what I would tell her.
Wow.
Say this louder.
Yeah, that was so good. Champ, my dog, entered the room and laid on the couch behind me because I think he could feel that truth was entering into the space.
Yes,
the Holy Spirit.
They're intuitive. They know. Yeah. I also love this trend that we're seeing with these messages about this tenderness that we have toward our younger selves.
Totally.
It's like, oh, honey. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
But yes to what Brooklyn is saying, because ministry is a
Mhm.
gift. It really is. And we all believe that. That's why we're here. That's why, listeners, you are listening to a podcast called Kids Ministry Answers.
Yep.
But it's not meant to cost you your health, your joy, and your future. And I
Yes.
know I talked about my love of extra credit at the top of this episode, but you don't get extra credit for burning out. So
Yeah.
building structure, whether that's systems at work or rhythms in your personal life, that's not a distraction from ministry. It's what allows you to keep doing the ministry for the long haul, right? So
Yeah.
do that. Build those scaffolding structures, build in those boundaries, and take care of you so that you can take care of others. Absolutely.
Yeah. Totally. Speaking from personal experience, I lost this when COVID happened. And the scaffolding that I had built kind of crumbled because there was all of a sudden more pressure and new and different things that I was
Right.
needing to do. And the innovation, it was tricky because, and I think this can happen as we try to do any new ministry or go in a different direction in ministry, is the innovation and the creativity is so good that we're kind of like, well, I'll sacrifice that scaffolding for
Yeah.
this. Like, I don't need that other stuff because I don't need the good rhythms. I don't need because I want to be a part of this innovation. And that's kind of the lie that we can sell ourselves is like, this is worth, my health to be a part of this new cool thing that's going on.
Yeah.
And I wish I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have put the scaffolding in place before I jumped into the creativity and
Sure.
innovation of that moment, because then I
Yeah.
wouldn't have sacrificed my own health and my family time. And then you have to build it after the fact, which is much harder than having it in place
Right.
beforehand, if that
And a
makes
lot
sense.
of times you tell yourself that it's only temporary, like it's only just for this moment.
Exactly,
And soon
yes.
things will get into its own rhythm and everything's going to be okay. But more often than not, like if you've already made sacrifices in that arena, you're actually going to be required to make more. So
Exactly.
preempt that, build it
Because
in
that
early.
becomes the rhythm. That becomes the
Right.
structure that people expect
Right.
from you.
And that's your new normal. Exactly.
Mhm. Yeah. It's such a good
Yeah.
point.
Ooh, good stuff.
Another category of things that we wish someone had told us before we went into ministry, and this one should seem obvious, but I think it's so good to talk about, that people are the ministry,
Yes.
including yourself. And I
Yes.
think we think about ministry and we think about the kids, but they aren't the only people in the picture. So let's start this convo with a quick note from our friend Damien, who is another he's another leader of the podcast YMA, the
Yay,
Youth Ministry
YMA
Answers
in the house.
podcast.
Love
Yes.
it.
So let's hear what Damien had to say.
One thing I wish someone would have told me was that the people you do ministry with, meaning the people on your team, the people that you lead, they need Jesus just as much as the people you do ministry for, i.e., students, etc.
Yeah, that's so good. That the people you do ministry with need care just as much as the people you're ministering to. That's so good. So your team, your volunteers, your staff, the people you lead, they're not just helping you do ministry. They're not just accessories to ministry. They are your ministry, right?
Yeah.
Even the people that are helping you with the ministry aspects of it, they need ministering too. That is an excellent point. Thank you, Damien.
Totally. They're not just a means to an end, which I know
Right.
sounds very strange to say, but I think we can fall into thinking about them like that, and they will
Yeah.
feel that if we're not very intentional about pouring into them just as much as we do the kids that we're ministering to.
Yeah, and I think it speaks a lot to what you were talking about when you said you felt your support systems were crumbling during COVID. And when a leader doesn't take stock of that happening within their team, and they're just it's okay, just just power through it because we got
Yes.
to get to our end goal, and not actually taking the moment to actually minister to the person. I think we're going to miss an important ministry element, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and our friend Emily from our team adds another layer to this that I think so many leaders need to hear. So let's check that out.
I wish I knew that being in ministry didn't mean I have to miss out on being ministered to. When I first started working in kids ministry, I didn't realize how often I wouldn't make it to big church, aka adult service. It sometimes felt honorable to be so needed, and other times there was just a little bit of bitterness. I wanted to sit, receive, and worship without leading and just be fed. But I've learned that you are not more faithful because you're exhausted. And I've also learned that God doesn't only speak in big church. Kids' church isn't less than. And I've been encouraged by kids' prayer, reminded of simple truths that I needed to hear again, and refreshed by worship sung with fun hand motions. So while it's important to set boundaries so you can receive in big church, God can and will minister to you wherever your heart is open to listening.
So good.
That was so sweet.
I know. It's like, these are all our favorite people. So I don't want to like rank them. I feel like Emily is the favorite of favorites. She's like up
Easily.
there in the top, so great to hear from her. And yeah, I think it can often feel like we're always the one giving, leading, pouring out. And it's easy to start thinking, not even so much that we don't need to be poured into anymore, but
Yeah.
like it almost feels selfish to think that we do.
Yeah.
No, I'm the one that's supposed to be like pouring into others, not the other way around. But
Mhm.
that is not how this works. That is not how this works. You still need community, even more
Yeah.
so when you're in leadership. You still need to grow. We already talked about that a lot. And you still need those moments where it's actually you're the one that's being encouraged, and you're the
Mhm.
one, like Emily said, that's being reminded of the truth. And also, always good to hear that reminder. Kids ministry is not less than. So thank you so much for that, Emily.
Yes. Yes. This is so therapeutic for me to hear because I come from a ministry background where I was serving at a church. Sorry, this is going to be a little spilling the tea moment with Linda.
Yeah.
But we had pastors at our old church who would actually not be happy that people were serving in kids ministry. And I think it's
Right.
because kids ministry, we had built up this reputation for ourselves as this really fun place, and this place where we're just doing some cool things together. And
Mhm.
so they only saw those outward like event type things. So they went so far as to say that serving in kids ministry is where your faith goes to die. Like they had this
Wow.
campaign against us. I know. And it
Wow.
was really hard because I'm like, how can you say that about these people who are giving their time to serve? Right.
Yeah.
And when this whole thing was going around, I was so heartbroken. And so many of those leaders came up to me and said, actually, serving in kids ministry is actually the only thing that's keeping me here. And so that
Yeah.
was so encouraging because, like Emily was saying, yeah, sometimes we're like, oh, I'm not in big church, so I feel like I'm not getting the full picture. But
Mhm.
and yeah, it's good to be a part of that too. But sometimes even just being in your kids ministry space, like
Yeah.
that is ministry that you are receiving as well. Because I don't know about you, Jason, but like even as a kids pastor, I find myself subconsciously speaking more to the grown-ups in the room sometimes. And I'm like, I
Yes.
need to cut this habit because the kids are probably like, what are you talking about? What do you mean coworkers? But like but sometimes, like I'll give an example and I'm just like, oh, I'm directly speaking to the leaders and not the
Yeah.
children. But
Yeah.
then in those little moments where I like slip, I feel like the people are receiving something that God had intended for them to hear. And I
Yeah.
think that can be powerful too. So,
Exactly.
like we've been hearing, just because you designed your program, your worship time, you're in teaching environment, all of those things for kids, it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that there aren't still opportunities for God to speak to the full-grown hearts and the fully developed brains in those
Yep.
environments.
Yeah. That's really good.
Okay, so this last one is a little heavier, but it's
Mhm.
really important, especially in kids ministry. Elle is back to share something she wishes she had known about recognizing and responding to abuse. So this last thing that we want to talk about is protecting kids. And
Mhm.
we might want to, we're going to give you a little bit of a trigger warning because she does mention sexual abuse from church leaders. So if that makes you uncomfortable, you might want to skip ahead a minute or two.
Mhm.
the number one thing that I wish I knew before getting into leadership is that I wish I knew more about how to spot and these signs of abuse and do something about it, both for my own protection and for the protection of the kids and teenagers that I was leading. When I was in youth ministry, there was a sexual predator who a lot of people kind of suspected for like a very long time. And there were a lot of things that a lot of us tried to do to bring that to light sooner. And there were a lot of things that a lot of people did to keep it undercover. And that sexual abuser was a ministry leader. He was a youth pastor. He was a camp director. And I remember at the time just doing the best with what I knew to do, but feeling totally out of my depth about how to actually protect kids, and how to move like this area of concern, this person of concern, like how to bring accountability to that situation. And then later as an adult, I found myself in positions where I was working in environments under bosses, ministry leaders who were abusive in other ways, sexually abusing female coworkers, but also just emotionally, spiritually, psychologically abusing people. And knowing what to do in those situations is not something that you can just know naturally. It is something that you have to learn. But the good news is that abuse follows some pretty clear, distinct patterns. And you can actually learn what those patterns are of like how to know when somebody is dangerous, how to know when you are in a situation where you or others are being abused, and then what to do about it. So if there's one thing I wish I knew better before getting into leadership, it's that. And it's something that I hope everybody, especially those who work with kids and teenagers, will take the time to learn, because unfortunately, there's a lot of abuse that happens in churches and in ministries. And if we can learn to spot the signs, we can do a much better job of stopping it and keeping it from ever starting.
Wow.
Yeah, this really breaks my heart that this is an actual reality.
Yeah. And as she
Yeah.
was speaking, I was thinking of the time where I was in a position like that. Like, I think we all, unfortunately, like, I think a lot of our listeners, as they hear Elle, will be like, oh, yeah, this has happened in my church. I know
Right.
when I was coming in and started out in student ministry and, wasn't trained in this area. And yet this situation took place where there was a parent that was doing these things and was like a small group leader and all this stuff. And, you just, you're not trained for that. And you feel like Elle said, you're so far out of your depth. And so not that I can say any better than she did, but I feel like as we've done this podcast, we've been kind of between the stuff that like you just figure out as you're going along versus the stuff that you really have to take the time to know beforehand. And this is one of those things that we are not going to be able to figure out naturally. We have to be trained. We have to be aware. And creating safe environments for kids, not optional. This
Absolutely
is probably
not. Non-negotiable.
I would say,
yes.
like maybe the most important part of what we do. I know people would say like, no, leading kids to Jesus is the most important part, but we can't even do that if the environment isn't
if the
safe.
environment's not safe. Exactly.
So taking the time to learn, ask questions, be prepared in this area is just so important for every leader.
Yes. And training your team to spot the signs like Elle had talked about so that they're vigilant, because these things creep up so quietly. It's so sneaky. And the victims won't speak out, like they're not going to just be like, oh, this happened. So it is important to spot these signs and alert the right people. So
exactly.
It was heavy, but so necessary things that we really wish we knew when we started out in ministry. Absolutely.
Totally.
I mean, I love all of these people, Jason. I know you do too. I love all the things that they had to say to us and to their younger selves. And I also love that nobody said, I wish I knew how to make my ministry cooler than the other church,
Exactly.
right? Like, I wish I had a bigger budget. Like, everyone wanted to remind young leaders to trust yourself, take care of yourselves, build structure that creates sustainability, keep learning, keep growing, be kind, take care
Yes.
of the people around you. So these are all so wholesome and so necessary. And Jason, it's our turn.
All
What is
right.
one thing you wish you knew before you went into ministry?
Okay, so yeah, if I had to choose just one thing, I would say to never underestimate the power of your presence. When I got into ministry, I felt a lot of the things we talked about. I felt ill-equipped. I felt like I was not prepared to do this, didn't have any business doing this. And like we talked about in the intro, like I didn't have confidence to do the thing that I felt ill-equipped to do. And so my answer to that was like, I'm going to be prepared. I am going to prepare. And so I'll be perfect in every situation that comes because I'm going to be prepped to do it. And then was shocked to find that the moments I couldn't prepare for with a kid, with a family, those were the moments where I just had to rely on the power of my presence with them. And those turned out being the most impactful moments that I would have on their lives.
Right.
It wasn't like the perfect, in my mind, like 3-point sermon that I did or the lesson that I prepared or the perfect wrap-in of that game that led to a great point at the end. Like it wasn't those things that I spent so much time preparing. It was just my presence in the moments that I couldn't prepare for.
Yeah, that's
that had the biggest
good.
impact. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is an occupational hazard of being a pastor, but I'm always called to that moment in Job where like his friends sat with him in
Yes.
chapter 2, and that was like the best thing they could have done. And of course,
Yeah.
they spoil that later with like words, words, words. But
Yeah.
just to sit with him for a week and to grieve with him, sometimes just being with them through something is ministry, and that's enough for the moment. And I think that's a
Exactly.
good reminder.
So like verbatim what you said, that's what I would go back and tell Jason wearing baggy shorts and
We'll send this clip to younger Jason.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, what about you, Linda? What would you say?
I mean, like when I was reflecting on this, I'm going to co-sign what Brooklyn said about giving yourself rest and also like allowing and giving yourself permission for that, because I don't think we were allowed that, or I didn't think I was allowed that. And I think we're going to discuss that a little bit more on the YMA side of things. But another thing, sorry, I'm just expanding the question. One thing that I wish someone had fully defined for me before I went into leadership is what a servant leader actually means. Because
Right.
it's a term that we throw around all the time in ministry.
Yes.
And like the more leadership levels you attain within your ministry, right? Like you kind of lose a concept of what it means to be a servant leader. So when you
Yep.
kind of get to like the head of your department or whatnot, then you do somehow subconsciously expect to be treated differently, for people to talk to you with more respect or like be more accommodating or whatever. But we have to remember, like the higher up you go, like the fiercer those kingdom principles apply, right? So, because it's not this vertical ladder that we're really climbing in our relationship and in our ministry. So to really serve humbly and to know that like you're not here to get accolades or respect,
Yeah.
Like, those things would be nice, but that
Mhm.
should not be the goal of why we're here.
Yeah. That's so
Yeah.
great. And honestly, if you're listening to this and you are early in ministry, just hear us say to you, like, you're not behind. I know
You're
that you can,
not.
you're not
You're
behind.
ahead because you're listening to this.
Exactly. And you are still learning, and that's completely okay because all of us, everyone around you is learning too. And
Yeah.
also, we think you're awesome. We are cheering
Yes.
you on. We're here to
Yes, we
help
are.
you be even more awesome. So hopefully that gives someone just a boost of confidence today.
Yeah. So take what's helpful from today and just keep
Yes.
showing up, keep doing what you're doing because the work you're doing matters more than you probably realize. And like Jason said, we do think you're awesome and we are cheering you on. And we are just so grateful that you are here for yourself and for the people you lead.
Yes. Totally.
Okay, Jason, this was such a fun and meaningful conversation, but unfortunately, it's time to go.
Yeah.
But before we do, tell the world, what are you into today?
Okay, short and sweet. I am into, well, not so sweet. I am into Brussels sprouts.
Okay, not sweet. Yes, you're right.
I feel like this is one of those that we're going to laugh at later on. But like, yeah, I'm just into Brussels sprouts. I have been like trying to eat cleaner, and for some reason Brussels sprouts like went to the top of the menu. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, because you can cook Brussels sprouts in a certain way. You can put all this stuff on top of them. That's not what I'm talking about. I cook them on their own in a pan with salt and pepper, and that's it. And I love them.
Preserve all the Brussels sproutness.
Exactly. It's like the consistency of them is great to me. Yeah. So Brussels
Okay.
sprouts is what I'm
Yeah,
into.
I like that for you.
How about you?
Okay, I guess we both had health on the mind because I was going to say that I'm slowly getting back into tennis
Oh,
after
cool.
like a 3+ month hiatus because the holidays were crazy and we just had a lot of expenses for kids' things. And so I was like, well, if anything has to go, it has to be mom's thing, you know? So I haven't been going out as much, but I started up again. But it was so infrequent to the point where my instructor forgot about me, like in terms of forgot that we had a lesson scheduled. And he was like, oh, it's because I just totally didn't get used to seeing you. And I was like, okay, that's fair. But can you come, please?
Yeah, that kind of
Like, we
hurts,
need
but
to do
yeah,
the
okay.
lesson. That's on me, but like, can you come here, please?
Yes.
Yes. So, getting back into the swing of things, and I'm really excited to get a little better and maybe potentially play some mixed doubles in the future.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for this fun conversation we had. And of course,
Yeah.
our amazing team for
Thank you to
submitting
our
all of their
team.
answers and getting
Exactly.
so vulnerable with our KMA friends.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you have a ministry question that you want us to talk about in a future episode, please send us a voice message here at kma.show. Always a pleasure chatting with you, Jason, and can't wait to catch up at the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Bye.